And so, we're finally in the last phase of winter. In Sweden, the months of January and February are known as the ox months, named after the oxen that traditionally were used as draft livestock to work the land and pull carriages in the days before mechanized farming. It's usually a period of 60 days between Christmas and Easter, when the only thing you can do to cope with the seemingly endless darkness is to keep your head down and keep working. This is usually the time when the fatigue of winter has really settled in, both mentally and physically. But luckily, things are changing. We're in the wee hours of night, one can say, just before the coming of dawn. Day by day, the sun and the light is slowly returning to this part of the world, a bit like an old friend whose presence has been dearly missed.
Beautiful morning, but it's been quite a windy night. We haven't had storm gusts, but I think gale winds. It's from the west. There's the storm Ingun, I think it's called. It's passed north of the British Isles and come in the north of Norway. They have storm and snow up there, so this is still pretty mild, but it still means that I have to go and check on the trees here in the steers paddock, because yeah, there's a lot of pines and spruces growing, and it makes them prone to blowing over. Hello, boys. And I don't want that happening, because if it gets over the fence, a tree, and breaks the electric wire here, then you know, they can easily escape. But I don't know, I don't see so many trees lying over the fence. A lot of them are leaning still, but maybe we got lucky.
There's a saying that goes, life is only hard for those who pick and choose. As spring feels like it's just around the corner, and I'm slowly getting into the mindset of managing the more active and busy time preparing for summer, I'm pondering once again, how do I want to live my life? The question of trying to aim for homesteading and farming full time, or scaling everything to the level where it's possible to both live this life on the farm and have a part-time work on the side, has been troubling me. How do I navigate these feelings, and do I really want to change the way things are? How do I think my life would be better if I did go full-time into the homestead? Is it even possible? And can I be happy and fully content without changing a thing? All questions that are rising to the surface of my mind these past couple of weeks. I still haven't gotten around to building some sort of nest box along the floor, where some of the layer hens still decide to lay their eggs for some reason. I guess the dark, secluded and safe corner must be very appealing to them, as hens typically want a lot of privacy in the area where they lay their eggs. As the light slowly returns, the layer hens are spending more and more time outside in the polytunnel. In just a few weeks, we'll open up the doors leading to the outside world, giving them an even greater ability to express their true natural instincts of digging, sunbathing, relaxing in the grass, and of course, hiding their eggs in even more secluded areas where I won't be able to find them. There's never a dull day farming. At the same time as these ideas and plans of the future, of whether or not to try farming and homesteading full time are bouncing around in my mind, I do try to take time to appreciate just how lucky I am and how precious every day is. A few months ago I heard an anecdote that stuck with me about how we spend our lives. It goes, imagine you've just died and are standing at the portals to the afterlife waiting to get in. However, before leaving the physical world for good, you're granted one last visit before never going back again. You're allowed to relive one day of your life as a spectator, observing yourself quietly from the sidelines. And that one day you get to revisit is today. In this light, how do you want to live your life? What is too valuable to ignore? And what can I let go of that is holding me back? I like to think that we all walk through life carrying two briefcases, one consisting of our wounds and memories from the past, and the other our worries of the future. But how often do we ever set those briefcases down to rest and experience life without them, if only for a short while? For me, the purpose of an exercise like this is to be able to remind myself of two things that are true at the same time. The impermanence of everything, and how life really is time borrowed from death. With this realization in the back of my mind, it helps put me in touch with what I really value in life. Like peeling an onion, I get closer and closer to what really matters, and that life I'm experiencing is fragile and something to be cherished deeply. It carries with it insights of how remarkable it is that where dust formed from billions of years ago in the cores of dead stars, now with the ability of being conscious of our own existence. It's an insight that carries with it the realization that all suffering and pain has its roots in a life held captive by fear and a sense of being separated from others. Hopefully, this is one realization that can help set us free from reaching the end of our lives with a briefcase full of regrets and sorrows. I guess that would be what everyone would like for themselves, right? To feel that they've lived the best, most authentic and free life possible during our borrowed time as humans on this earth. At least, one would think so.
Lofty ideals of carbon sequestration, etc., and low inputs. The supermarkets don't give a flying toss about the farmer as long as they're getting product.
Yeah.
They don't care. They just want it cheap. And then all of a sudden they move the goalpost and say, I want it cheap, but you've got to have used less nitrogen and your carbon footprint's got to be this. It's a rigged game. You can't win as a farmer in that system.
It was over Christmas. We ran out of tomatoes in the supermarkets, and the supermarkets blamed farmers, but the reality was the supermarkets didn't want to pay the price the farmers had set them, so instead of paying more or charging more for the tomatoes, they just decided not to take them.
Exactly. It's a rigged game. Absolutely shafted.
So really what we're saying is, obviously we've digressed and we've spoken about a little bit, but actually if you can find a local farmer that's growing or producing food to a standard that you can agree with, i.e.
I've decided to change my routines when it comes to how I feed the layers. After many years of not using the feed bin or the silo that I got off a neighbor a few years ago, it's time to fix it up and install it in a new place on the farm. Shortly after I bought it and had the feed truck fill it the first time back in spring 22, I realized I had a big problem. Water was leaking into some small cracks on the top of the silo, spoiling the feed and making it unusable. As I recently decided to start buying organic layer feed, I'm also making the effort to move the silo inside the barn where the sheep are, where it'll be protected from the elements and easy for the feed truck to deliver. Today I'm getting the help from my wonderful neighbors Lennart and his son Axel. Since the silo is currently too tall to fit in the barn, it needs to be put on its side and shortened. Being built out of 3 sections held together by nuts and bolts, it's an easy job unbolting and removing the middle section. If I've done the maths right, it should still be able to fit 7 cubic meters of feed, totaling around 4.5 tons. With only 200 layers eating about 130 grams of feed per day, I don't want to buy more than 3 tons at a time, since the quality of minerals and micronutrients in the feed decreases over time. I'm looking forward to improving my feeding routines, hopefully making it a little easier for me and also supporting organic agriculture, both in Sweden and in Europe, as the feed is almost 100% EU ingredients.
Ja, eller skulle det räcka med en? Ja, det räcker med en. Vi ska se vad som händer nu när vi lägger ner den.
Getting back to my thoughts on whether or not I want to be a part-time or full-time farmer. I think that what it boils down to for me is a question of meaning and purpose, connected to being honest about what expectations I have about life. When trying to stake out a life for oneself, it's easy to want to follow the advice of doing whatever seems to make you happy. At least, that's what I tried for many years, until I realized that this probably wasn't the best long-term advice. The Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl once wrote, "That humans are most driven by a search for meaning. Contrary to popular belief, maybe it's true that our biggest drivers are not the search for pleasure, happiness, success, or even power, but instead to feel a sense that what we do matters, and how we live our lives matters, and has a deeper meaning and purpose." So how do we find our North Star? Where do we look for to find a sense of meaning, motive, and purpose? An answer to the question, why are we even here, and what should we be doing? First, we need to put down the 2 briefcases we are carrying and be with ourselves for a minute. Then, when the mind starts calming down, we can ask ourselves a simple question. What would you willingly sacrifice yourself for? Maybe that's where we can find a sense of purpose. Or at least, it's a good start.